So you've bought a new deck. Now what? Hi, it's Colleen here from Authentic Pathways, and today I'm going to give you some tips on how you can really connect with your new deck. Stay tuned. Hi, so I got a new deck for my birthday, and it's the Lightseers Tarot by Chris Ann. If any of you haven't seen the images, it is an absolutely awesome deck. But it occurred to me that perhaps some of you might not know different ways that you can use to connect to a deck. You might buy it and get it home and jump into using it instantly, but there are some other ways that you can connect on a much deeper level to it. I'm going to share them with you today. So the first thing I do when I buy a new deck is I cleanse it, because I kind of think, well, the journey that it's taken from off the shelves and being packed and perhaps, thrown around with somebody in a hurry, perhaps in a bad mood, and it's been thrown to the back of a van or an airplane or wherever, and it's had this long journey. You don't know, and I'm not saying it does, this is just personal preference. You don't know if it's picked up any kind of negative vibes on its way over to you. So the first thing I will do is I will sit it either out, if the timing is right, in a full moon, or I will let it sit with some crystals on top, like so. So I would generally use clear quartz because it's great for cleansing. These particular three that I have here are smoky quartz, clear quartz, and rose quartz. And I just let it sit overnight, and that way it's nice and fresh for me to start using the next day. It's not essential, and I'm not saying all decks that come to you are groggy energetically. It's just something that I like to do. The next thing I do is I take out the cards and I go through each individual card slowly and I really take the time to look at each of the images, to look at the characters, the landscape, all the details in the card, the colors, which way the characters are facing, etc., etc. And I go through the entire deck, and I do this before I even look at the manual, because in order to build up a personal relationship with a deck, the first impressions that you get on all the pictures are what are going to sit with you for the rest of the time that you have that relationship with that deck. And they will be the ones that you remember because they are the ones that you identify with. So all this about, not being able to remember all the card meanings kind of falls by the wayside when you do this exercise, because you will have already formulated your own meanings based on your feelings that you get from the pictures. Once you then grab the manual and you go through the artists and the deck creators' interpretations of the cards, that might give you a further inkling as to why they've created that specific picture, that specific character with those specific, surrounding environment or animals or whatever, and that will give you a greater understanding about why that picture has appeared the way it is. But it's very, very, very important for you to go through it first on your own, because those meanings are the ones that will sit with you forever. The next thing, if you've got space, is to actually lay out all the cards. So first, if possible, and I know this requires quite a large dining room table, is to lay out your major arcana. So the numbers 0 to 21, lay them out in a complete row, and then spend time going through the cards again and see if you can pick up how the cards change from one to the other. So how it starts off with the Fool, how it goes to the Magician, how that goes to the High Priestess, etc., etc. Because not all the time, but quite often you can see a theme, you can kind of see a period of growth happening throughout the cards, and then that helps you also to kind of understand the theme behind it. Also lay out the minor arcana. So do your ace to king of all the 4 suits, and if possible, do it in one area so that you've got ace to king, ace to king, ace to king, ace to king. And that's a great exercise, because not only will that help you see a snapshot of the minor arcana, so you can instantly see if the deck creator has used specific colors for the different suits, because quite often sort of the wands cards will have a sort of a, you know, reddy browny tint to them, and the earth cards will have a greenish tint. Not necessarily those colors, but quite often. And that helps you instantly to recognize the cards when you're going through them, because you'll see the colors first. But laying them out like this will give you a great chance to see all the aces together and see how that ace is interpreted in the different elements. See then how the twos look. You can compare how they differentiate between the elements, the threes, the fours, etc. Also, once you get to the court cards, you can see how the pages are represented, etc., etc., etc. And it's a great exercise, because it really gives you an overview, which helps you then to understand each of the cards individually. Quite often you can also see, like I suggested doing when you lay the major arcana out. Cats come to say hello. When you lay the major arcana out, it's quite nice to look to see if you can see that continuity. Very often you can do that same exercise with the minor arcana, and you can watch the progression from the ace through to the 2, to the 3, to the 4, etc. And you can then compare it and how that differentiates between the suits as well. When they're laid out like that, I know I mentioned the colors of the suits, which sometimes is blindingly obvious. But have a look at the colors, sort of the colors of the aces. So whilst you might have the suits that have certain colors, the actual numbers might have specific colors. Are the pages a certain color? Is there a common color between, you know, the twos, the fives, the kings? Is there one color that jumps out predominantly throughout the whole deck? Is there perhaps a color that you don't see? Everything will mean something, will help you to understand that deck better. The same goes for patterns. So there could be patterns on clothing, it could be patterns on expressions, it could be patterns on animals, etc., etc. There's a whole host of things, but you're just looking to see if you can pick up similarities between the cards. Look at the type of people. The type of people, the expressions on their faces, what are they wearing, what type of animals are in the deck, what type of animals are around them. Is there an animal that appears most often? I mean, if it's a cat deck, obviously there's going to be a cat in every card, but if it's a standard sort of people-orientated deck, you know, sometimes there's, you know, a lion in this card and a cat in this card and an owl in that card or whatever. Just, you know, have a look at the animals. You know, at first glance, what do those animals mean to you? Do you think they contribute to the meaning of the card? Can you see why that animal's there? Perhaps a dog, you know, standing for, I don't know, loyalty and faithfulness is in a card that perhaps symbolizes that, or perhaps not, and why not? So, you know, at first glance, you're just looking for kind of first impressions here. Then another idea is to take out all the masculine archetypes. So take out all the male cards and see if there's a similarity there. See if you can get a sense of the personalities of each of those men from those cards, and then do the same exercise for the females. Hopefully there's a good balance between the two. I know the older decks were predominantly male, but now, you know, there's a lot greater balance. But it helps you to understand the energy behind the cards a little bit more when you do this. I've already spoken about comparing all the court cards. So if you want to analyze just the court cards on their own little entity, then that's also a great exercise. Take note of the landscape. So what is the background? The background behind where all these people and animals are standing. Because whenever you learn something new, it's great to immerse yourself into that background. So for instance, if you've got a deck that has, I have a steampunk deck, so the background there is predominantly Victorian slash mechanical, because that's the whole point of steampunk. In order to understand then the landscape behind these cards, I would then research steampunk, and I would research what it's about, how it came to be about, where it appears in the world, how it's represented in different countries. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe I watch a couple of steampunk movies. Maybe I'd see if there was, steampunk type music, and fully immerse yourself in that world, because that will help you to greater understand the actual cards that are in that world. Sophie wants a cat deck. You coming to help me, or you come to lie on my lap? So yeah, so landscapes are really great. So do your research, read up about that environment, read up about that world, and understand what's behind it, and the energies behind it, the type of people that frequent it, etc., etc. Then go through your deck and pick out the card that you absolutely love. There will be one card that as soon as you see it, you're just blown away, and you just think it's the most incredible picture, whatever it may be, and put that to one side. And do the same for the one that creates a negative response for you. There's a card that perhaps you're going to pull out that you're going to flinch at. It's going to trigger something. Perhaps it's the picture, it's the feeling. I've got cat ears now. Perhaps it's the feeling that it generates. Perhaps it conjures up a memory or something. And sit with those two cards and journal what it is about both of those cards that makes you feel the way that it does. Because you have to get to the bottom of that. Otherwise, potentially, certainly that negative card can ruin the whole deck for you. And it needn't, because that card isn't personally for you. It's just triggering something, and you have to understand what's behind the trigger. So spend as long or as little time as you feel you need on that in order to be able to move past that original flinch. I highly, highly, highly recommend journaling because it really does make a huge difference. It doesn't have to be long and involved, but I would recommend drawing one card every day. And there's actually a sheet which I might share in my Facebook group, initial impressions. So instantly what keywords come up for that card. Don't worry about what the book says. Don't worry about what the traditional tarot meaning should or shouldn't say. As soon as you draw that card, what is the first word that comes to you when you see that card? And make a note of that. And then you would make a note of the character in the card, what he's wearing, what the weather's like, what emotions you sense from the character, how the character's feeling. And then things like, there's a sun, there's a dog, there's a mountain, and all the kind of symbols that you see in the card. And this exercise will help you to really look beyond trying to interpret the card. Because what happens is that I think we jump ahead of ourselves, and we're very drawn to wanting to interpret the card because that's what we're here for. We want to read the cards. But we can only read the cards when we are constantly tuning in to everything in that card. And what you'll find is that over time, you'll do one reading and you'll be drawn to the fact that there's a dog at the person's foot, whereas 2 months later, you'll do another reading with the same card. And you won't even see the dog because you'll be too busy focusing on the fact that there's a cloud over the sun or something. But you won't be seeing those details if you haven't taken the time to really go through the cards and familiarize yourself with the scenes and all the details that are in each of the card scenes. So it just makes it easier for you. And once you tap into that, it will come a lot easier when you're trying to read the cards. I spoke when I did a Facebook Live recently about pathworking, which is it's a form of, it can be a form of meditation, but it can also be a great exercise to really step into a tarot card. So what you do is you would draw a card. You could do it as part of your daily draws as well when you're journaling, all those things I just mentioned in the previous point. But you would draw a card, look at the scene, maybe journal, make note of all the things that you've seen, and then close your eyes and picture that scene in your head, and then step into that picture. So step into that picture and see now that the person is directly in front of you. Now you need to turn around and have a look and see what's to the side, what's behind you, what is about to happen, what has just happened, and you bring that scene alive, and that in effect creates a much bigger, I don't know, like a 3D image as opposed to just that flat 2D image. You know, it's like, oh, there's a man walking and he's got a dog at his foot. But, you know, once you step into the picture, you're like, oh gosh, look, you know, in that picture in my mind, I see there's a whole pack of dogs walking behind, or perhaps there's a pack of dogs in front that the man and his dog are going to join. And you start creating a little scene. And it's a great idea to bring that card alive, which in doing so will create more meanings for you and create a bigger database of symbolism and all sorts of things to tap into when that card pops up in a reading. So those are just some of the ways that I used to create, I don't create a deck, to connect to a deck. So I'll just summarize them again quickly. So one way is to cleanse them when they arrive with some crystals or in the full moon. To go through each card very, very slowly before you look at the book. No peeking. Go through the cards first and create your initial impressions. Then you lay them out in order, the major arcana from 0 to 21. And really take in the images and see if you can see how the scene moves from one to the other. Then lay out the minor arcana in order from ace to king. Compare all the aces, compare all the twos, etc., all the way through to the court cards. Take the court cards out, sit and compare all the court cards, how the knights look different, how the queens look different. Then remove all the male cards and compare them and try and tap into their energies, their personalities. Do the same for all the female cards. Look for patterns, look for colors, look for symbols, look for animals. You're just trying to find patterns in those cards. Then take out your favorite card and your least favorite card and journal a little bit about why it's your favorite card and why the card that you don't like so much irks you. Because you don't want that card to ruin the deck for you in the future. So journaling will help this. Then if you can, it's a really great idea to spend time doing a daily draw. So if you have got a daily draw sheet, if not, I'm going to put one in the Facebook group. So that's another tip, to do your daily draw and to really jot down exactly what it is that you see in the cards. And then last of all is to do some pathworking or meditate. So step into the scene of the card. Create the scene in your head and then step into that card and try and figure out what happened just before the image, what's happening afterwards, and turn around and see if there's other things that you can see in the picture. So those are some tips and tricks to help you connect with your new deck. I hope you found them useful. If you did, please like the video and subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything in the future. And I will see you again soon. Bye for now.